the war within. You say you want to be happy, successful, or at peace. You repeat affirmations, set goals, make vision boards. Yet somehow, you always end up back in the same loop, procrastinating, choosing the wrong people, avoiding opportunities, quitting just when things get real. It's not that you don't know what to do, it's that something inside you refuses to let you do it. You're fighting an invisible enemy that lives under your own skin. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychoanalyst who built much of modern depth psychology, had a brutal explanation for this. He believed that every act of self-sabotage is not a failure of willpower, but a form of unconscious rebellion. Your psyche, Jung said, contains forces that don't care about your conscious goals, forces that want you to face what you've buried. When you run from them, they fight back. Jung's answer to self-sabotage is not gentle. It's not just love yourself more or think positive. It's the opposite. Confront the parts of yourself you least want to see. According to him, the real reason you keep sabotaging your life is that you've refused to meet the darker half of your soul, the shadow. And until you do, you'll keep tripping over it, again and again. 1. The shadow, the enemy you created. Jung believed that every human being has a shadow, the sum of all the traits, impulses, and emotions we've rejected or denied. It's not just evil or bad stuff. It's everything you've decided you shouldn't be. Maybe as a child, you learned that being angry made people withdraw love, so you buried your anger. Maybe you were told that being ambitious was selfish, so you became humble. Each time you disown a part of yourself, it doesn't disappear, it just moves underground. The shadow doesn't vanish because repression isn't deletion, it's storage. Everything you repress still operates inside you, influencing your behavior from the unconscious. Jung compared this to a person walking with a dark twin following them everywhere they go. You can't see it, but it controls the way you move. That's why so many people can't explain their own destructive choices. They think they're acting freely, but it's the shadow steering the wheel. Self-sabotage, in Jung's view, is the shadow trying to get your attention. When you keep choosing partners who hurt you, when you blow up opportunities, when you forget to follow through, that's your unconscious screaming, "See me." The shadow doesn't want to ruin you. It wants to be integrated. But it will destroy your surface life until you acknowledge its existence. 2. Projection, when you hate what you are. One of the most disturbing parts of Jung's theory is his idea of projection. Whatever you refuse to see in yourself, you'll see, and usually hate, in others. You'll condemn the arrogance of others while secretly longing for confidence. You'll despise people for being fake, not realizing you've been performing for approval your whole life. The more you repress, the more you project. Projection is how the unconscious tries to reveal itself indirectly. It puts a mirror in front of you using other people. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. It's brutal because it means your biggest triggers are not about them, they're about you. When you say, "I can't stand people who lie," what you might really mean is, "I can't face the ways I deceive myself." Self-sabotage often happens through these projections. If you've rejected your own power, you'll unconsciously surround yourself with people who drain it. If you've buried your own assertiveness, you'll submit to those who dominate you. Until you realize that your outer world reflects your inner one, you'll keep repeating the same painful dynamics, thinking life is unfair, when really, your psyche is just showing you what you've refused to see. 3. Complexes, when your past runs the show. Another key Jungian idea is the complex, the cluster of repressed emotions and memories that form their own little personalities inside you. Think of them like internal programs running on outdated software. You might have a failure complex rooted in early humiliation or a love complex born from abandonment. Each complex has its own voice, emotions, and agenda. When a complex is triggered, you're not really you anymore. You're taken over by that part of the psyche. That's why you sometimes say, "I don't know what came over me," after you self-destruct. Jung would say a complex did. You were possessed by a psychic fragment that hijacked your will. In his words, complexes behave like independent beings. Healing means learning to recognize when a complex is active, not by suppressing it, but by observing it. You start noticing patterns, the same emotions, the same inner voices, the same traps. When you can see a complex instead of being controlled by it, you start reclaiming power. Until then, every time it's triggered, it'll drag you back into sabotage mode. 4. The persona, your mask is cracking. The persona is the mask you wear in public, the version of you that fits society's expectations. Jung didn't see it as fake, it's necessary. You can't function in the world without some kind of mask. But problems arise when you believe a mask is all you are. The more you cling to your persona, the more the shadow builds pressure behind it. Self-sabotage often strikes people who've over-identified with their persona. For instance, someone who prides themselves on being the nice one might explode in anger or make self-destructive decisions just to break free of that image. Jung would say the psyche seeks wholeness, not perfection. So when your mask becomes too rigid, the unconscious will tear holes in it to restore balance. The persona is also where burnout hides. When you spend too long performing an identity that doesn't match your deeper self, the good employee, the chill friend, the strong one, the mind eventually rebels. That rebellion might look like depression, addiction, or chaos. But underneath, it's a demand for authenticity. Your psyche would rather destroy your false life than let you live a lie. 5. Individuation, the hard road to wholeness. Jung's answer to all this wasn't to eliminate the shadow, but to integrate it, a process he called individuation. Individuation means becoming a complete human being, not just a good one. It's the lifelong work of uniting the conscious and unconscious, the light and dark, the rational and instinctual. That's why Jung's path is brutal, it demands radical honesty. You can't integrate what you won't acknowledge. You have to face your envy, your fear, your cruelty, your weakness, and own them as part of you. The goal isn't to act on those traits, but to recognize that they exist. Only then do they stop controlling you from the shadows. True individuation means accepting contradiction. You can be both gentle and dangerous, humble and proud, loving and selfish. The more you accept your inner opposites, the less you need to sabotage yourself to express them. Self-sabotage fades when you stop living in denial of who you really are. 6. Why we'd rather stay broken. If Jung's path leads to freedom, why do so few people take it? Because the shadow terrifies us. It means admitting we're not who we pretend to be. It means facing guilt, pain, and impulses that society labels unacceptable. Jung said that most people prefer to stay normal rather than become whole. Wholeness demands courage, and most of us would rather suffer in the familiar than grow into the unknown. There's also comfort in victimhood. When you're always the one being sabotaged by life, you don't have to take responsibility for your own complexity. Jung saw this as spiritual laziness, the refusal to wrestle with the truth of your nature. But life doesn't let you off easy. What you ignore internally will appear externally, again and again, until you deal with it. That's why your self-sabotage feels cyclical. You're not cursed, you're being educated by your own unconscious. Every failed relationship, every lost opportunity, every "or why do I always do this" moment is an invitation to wake up. The question is whether you'll accept it. 7. The integration, owning your shadow. Integrating the shadow doesn't mean becoming perfect. It means becoming real. Jung believed that when you make the unconscious conscious, its destructive power transforms into creative energy. The same aggression that once led you to ruin relationships can become assertiveness. The same envy that once ate at you can become inspiration. The key is awareness without judgment. When you feel the old patterns rise, the fear, the impulse, the sabotage, pause and name them. Don't run, don't justify, don't shame yourself. Just see. Jung said that what we resist persists, but what we accept transforms. The shadow loses its grip when it's seen clearly in the light of consciousness. Over time, self-sabotage turns into self-understanding. You stop fighting against yourself and start cooperating with your psyche. You begin to realize that every breakdown was actually your soul's way of forcing you to grow up. Conclusion: the brutal mercy of the shadow. Jung's answer to self-sabotage is brutal because it exposes your illusions. It tells you that the enemy isn't out there, it's within. But it's also merciful, because once you understand this, you can stop wasting energy fighting yourself. The shadow isn't here to ruin you. It's here to complete you. The truth is, you don't need more motivation, better habits, or another self-help book. You need to stop pretending you're all light. You need to meet your darkness, the part of you that's been exiled and unloved. Because until you do, that part will keep pulling the strings, making sure you trip, stall, and fail, all to bring you home to yourself. So if you keep sabotaging your life, maybe you're not broken after all. Maybe your shadow is just tired of being ignored. Jung would say, stop running, turn around, and look it in the eye. That's where the real healing begins.